Welcome everybody to today's Shop Talk with FamilySearch. They're going to talk to us today about providing access to records and collaborating with FamilySearch. And we're going to have their presentations. They have three presenters today. We'll have some Q&A time, and then we'll go over just a few upcoming programming things we have left for the rest of the year. And John, if you'd like to introduce the speakers.
Yep, be happy to. And we're just delighted to be here with COSA members and others. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to share ideas and also to receive feedback from you. We look forward to that. I just have a background. I want to just provide some bios for our speakers today. Bruce Brand currently serves as the North America Strategic Relationships Manager at FamilySearch. For the past 12 years, he's led efforts to build collaborative global partnerships with genealogical, archival, and academic organizations, expanding access to family history records and resources. Before joining FamilySearch, Bruce held senior positions at Franklin Covey and other firms, designing and delivering custom learning and organizational development solutions for major clients, including Microsoft, ConocoPhillips, Cargill, and Wells Fargo. And we're delighted to have Bruce with us on our team and here today. Jim Erickson is a product leader at FamilySearch, where he manages solutions for the archival community. He has spent most of his career leading product and marketing for online services, including Ancestry, where he built audiences around online records experiences. Prior to joining FamilySearch, he also served as vice president of marketing at Move Networks, now Sling TV, where he helped launch online video streaming services for global brands, including ABC, Fox, CWTV, Warner Brothers, Televisa, and SPN. Jim received an MBA in marketing from Brigham Young University and a bachelor's degree in public relations. And last but not least, Katie Altoff Hall has a master's degree in education and an MLS. She serves as the regional manager for the United States Central Area and 4 provinces in Canada, representing FamilySearch history needs and opportunities across this diverse region. In her role, Katie acts as a content, relationship, market, and experience manager, working to connect individuals and organizations with resources that advance family history research and preservation. She's passionate about access, preservation, and people, and works to ensure family history resources remain available for generations. And we're delighted to be able to join you today, and going to turn the time over to Bruce. We'll start, and then we'll have Jim, and then after that, Katie. Go ahead, Bruce.
Well, thank you, John. See if I can get this going here on my end. So can you hopefully see that on your end?
Yes.
Take a few minutes. Thank you for the introduction. Take a few minutes and talk about something FamilySearch has considered for years. This idea of what if we could provide external access more readily. We're already doing this, but to more of our industry friends or archives or other organizations. So I'm going to take a few minutes and give you kind of a preview of some efforts that are beginning to accelerate in that area. So first of all, why would we consider this? Sometimes it's helpful to kind of pause. You may have seen this published in a few places that FamilySearch's purpose is we enable inspiring journeys that bring joy to all people as they discover, gather, and connect their family, past, present, and future. And our experience has been this typically happens in some kind of a family tree. We have a family tree. There are other family trees where people begin to assemble that information. And we all know there are some who are extremely serious about that effort. My wife's one of them. So, and then ultimately, external record access plays a role in that. In other words, all of our users none of them exclusively rely on FamilySearch. There's other places they can find records to enable this journey of discovery, right? So, so this idea then of what does this look like? It's this concept that says if FamilySearch has users, what if we were to further enable them to find what they're looking for somewhere else? not necessarily on Family Search. And if that happened, what would it look like? And how can we make it a good experience make it a win, for everybody? That's kind of a thing we're trying to work on. And as you can imagine, um, this is not a simple conversation, right? It's not something we say we're going to do X and Y and we're ready to go. So before I talk further about this, it's helpful to pause and look at some of the key metrics at Family Search. I pulled these. This is a public site you can find these on that Family Search maintains. So you may be aware we have about 13 billion, searchable records, 5 billion digital images. Our monthly visits is just under 40 million. This would have been in the last cycle, last month or so. So people on our family tree is 1.7 billion, and then the sources in that tree, which is what we're kind of talking about here, is about a little under 4 billion sources. So the one that's probably worth noting here is this traffic we have. Is visits represent interests, right? These are people who many of them use many of your sites, right? They're actively involved in many cases in researching and looking for records, etc. So why does this external access matter? With archives, for example, it helps to better align these users with potentially the needs of archives. It wouldn't just be to satisfy the needs of our users, but the idea is how could it benefit an archive? And that might look different in different situations, right? And then the other half would be how could we better enable this concept of just family history discovery for the user? And if that's a good experience, they're going to come back and do more of that and to be able to often make contributions, etc. So, so this is really the stage that we're in, is how do we understand archives needs, right? What can we do to better understand what that looks like? And these are just examples, right? We don't have any research on any of these, but we see out there potentially this interest in publicity. There might be some that are very interested in web traffic, others are not. There could be technology innovations that might be interesting to some. Um, and there might be often a need to provide certified materials to your users for a fee, which is some form of revenue, right? And then there'll be other reasons to provide these needs that if you said what are the things that keep the state archivist up at night, those kind of things that would be the kind of things we want to make sure we're aware of those and how can we help. So and it could be an example that sort of looking at the needs and a matched solution could be, there could be an opportunity where we have a publicity need, and we would approach, if that turned out to be a priority for many, we would approach it with a certain solution set. And we would, as we've done with our, all of our products and our relationships, there ends up being some form of a pilot, some kind of tests, gathering data, better understanding the needs, and so forth. Eventually, as something gets launched. Um, Another one would be, what if it was traffic? And there are some that are definitely interested in traffic, and some of them, the traffic means a greater burden on their systems, and it's not necessarily something they're interested in. But if traffic is of interest, how could we best optimize, traffic? Is have it be traffic that it ends up that's is a good experience when they arrive at an archive site, or when they leave Family Search. Is there a way we could enable that search to be refined or carry with it the metadata as that happens? So there's lots of considerations there. Technology side, we're in this inflection point. We all know this with AI. Is what if AI allowed us to have some really high intelligence where some AI model could say, what, we not only believe we know there's actually records for your family on this particular archive, and here's the link. In fact, here's the link right to the page. That sounds kind of crazy, but those kind of the kind of support to make that happen is something that's not that far in the future. So by the way, if you have questions along the way, please put them in the chat, and there will be a few minutes at the end for a few questions. So the technology could also be, depending on the needs, could be two-way. Could be that arrow going both directions, right? So this is my disclaimer. These are early considerations. This first example I'm going to use, we're actually doing this to a limited degree, but the others we're not doing at all. It's purely a consideration. So this one is just pretty simple. What if you provide a direct link that said that there are records out there? Here's a link to the site. As you know, we have a thing called the Family Search Wiki that has a ton of links in it, and those are sometimes up to date and some are not, as you may know. But there's that model on down some very specific links. If you use Family Search, you'll see on some of our search pages we'll have links to third-party organizations. We'll have some where we have the collection on Family Search, and they link out. It takes them within some specific information within those collections. In some cases, it takes with it the metadata that you're on a page, so you don't have to go to the other page and fill it out, which makes a better experience for the user. But the idea is, that it provides traffic directly to the archives. Family Search, have these links out to the archive's own site, and it's best for well-established archives because this involves some resources, etc. But that's kind of an example of one of the models. Some of the benefits, or I guess examples specifically, we provide current links, for example, to NARA. They're not at this point as optimized as we'd like them to be one day, but this provides control for the brand and some brand visibility for the archives. And it does again require some technical investment. So this is an example of something we're doing, and it's pretty straightforward. There's ways to enhance this. What if there was a way for us to have, we call it a light index in advance, where we could say, behind the scenes, there's an index that would tell us that the collections you're looking for, we know they're on this site, so that the user has high confidence they're going to find what they're looking for, and the experience improves. But that would be example of dialing in a little bit on a direct link. So let's move these others. Now these others are I came from if you've seen mention my background, I've been involved in some tech industries outside of the family history and records industry. But these are some models that we're not using. We have no plans currently to use them. But if we say, what are some other models that organizations that have different needs but overlap a little bit into our world, what would they use? And these are a few. The first is just direct link, a white label consideration is one where you might have I'll get in that in a minute, but white label, open source, and third party. On a white label, and again, these are IDs only, another disclaimer, where it's a co-branded hosted site, and it's a restricted access environment, for example, shared branding, streamlined. If you had, you probably have some SaaS providers you work with, either within your organization or personally, where you go there and you're really at another site, but it's actually branded to represent that site. And it can be a very streamlined, good experience for the user. Another one is a third-party collaboration. Think of Microsoft, or they may have a local or industry-specific partner they work with. This kind of a channel where that partner can provide a better solution for the needs of that user, and that collaboration, makes that happen. There are economies of scale when you have specialization. It can lower overall costs, and it can expand access and support options as well. So lastly, this is, also you see it out there, but an open source where there's an on-premise platform that runs on open source code that addresses this need for local control. You're familiar with a little bit with open source tools. There's some real strengths to that. There's some drawbacks. It's ideal for a strict data residency requirements. In some cases in Europe, records have to be in a particular country. They cannot leave according to statutory requirements. So that gives you kind of an idea of some of the things that are out there, some of the things we're considering. And I don't know, so again, today we're at a stage where we're trying to understand needs. So as we have opportunities to talk to some of you, that's some of the things that we'll be looking for is, in a perfect world, what are those things that are challenging in your environment? And we begin to kind of get a sense for designing, how do we design a solution that could maybe address those and be ultimately a win for your organization, for our users, and within that for FamilySearch as well. So that's what I had to cover. I don't know if there are a couple of questions you have before we transition to the next speaker here. I've not looked at the chat. I don't know if there's any questions that have come up. And if there are none, I appreciate your time, and we'll go ahead and shift gears to, I believe,
Okay,
Jim.
we'll turn it over to Jim.
Okay. There we go. I think I'll share my desktop here. Okay. Oh. So I'll be talking about what we're doing. Bruce just talked about providing access, new access models to those who come and visit FamilySearch, but we are also adding access for archivists to your records on FamilySearch, where you will have constant and consistent access to the content that we've digitized on your behalf. And we call this record exchange. FamilySearch, as you know, is all about preservation and access. We provide preservation as a service. That's why a lot of people work with us. I was visiting an archive, the National Archive in Spain, and the technology provider said I can only see benefit from FamilySearch also preserving our records. And so that's something that we're very well known from. But as we well known for, but as we talk more about access, our role we see is evolving. FamilySearch doesn't need to acquire the world's records. That's your job. We're just trying to provide access to these records when somebody's interested in it. And so we want to point to that valuable genealogical information wherever it's available. So those who've worked with us understand that record access and enabling record access is important. We want you as an archive to see the images and the metadata that we are providing as it's being digitized, so you have confidence that this is happening. We want you to be able to download images as they're published, either as they're published or on demand. We want you to easily use these images in a digital reading room. You can use them on your own site in your own way, but we also have a digital reading room that we can provide. We also want you to have access to the treatments that we make as we are indexing or providing full text transcriptions of those records. That's something that is new that we're talking about enabling, and this would all be available in this record exchange. And then we also want to be able to share back to you digitized records for preservation and future recovery. FamilySearch has had this role a number of times where a province or an entire country in the story of Niue Island, where they've come back to us and we've been able to restore their entire collection of records that have been lost because of a typhoon or a natural disaster. And this is Record Exchange. This is what it looked like a little while ago. It is an active project. Right now, if somebody is working with us and they have opted to receive what we call a donor copy, our internal operations is now using Record Exchange to download and package that content. But that's not where we want to end up. Where we want to end up is for every archivist that works with us to be able to sign in and immediately see the records that we have digitized on your behalf. And that's the direction that we're going now. When you come in, first somebody today requests records. We can request either the preservation records or the production records as they are available on FamilySearch itself. When you prefer, if you select preservation records, sorry, we can deliver those either as a high quality TIFF or a JPEG format. And then when you come in to download the content, you can specify the folder structure and the naming conventions that work based on the metadata. And then you can select the folder And if it's an online ongoing project, you can also just specify how much data you want to download at a time. And so that's some of the functionality that we have in Record Exchange. We also provide a digital reading room solution. The digital reading room provides on-premise access to your records. So this is not a connected solution. This is one that is populated by the digital images that we've prepared. It includes the records digitized by FamilySearch, but you can also include additional image collections as desired. So the other records that you have that have been digitized, you can add to the reading library as it's appropriate. And then it provides you a very simple way to organize and find through the metadata provided on those images. So this is an example. This is, again, it's an installed application, the digital reading room. So you could put it on one or more stations at your archive or at a library if you have a partnership there. And it just allows a very simple interface to come in and to browse and to go through the images. Where we're headed in the future with the digital reading room, right now, the digital reading room and the record exchange where you download your content are two separate experiences. But in the future, we want to change that. We want to allow you to actually download and populate the digital reading room through record exchange. So the same structure that you choose to download your content, it gets immediately loaded into record exchange. And then if we have continuing operations where we're still gathering and digitizing records, those would also be added to the digital reading room over time. And that's what this bullet explains. So it's going to be in that same structure that you've specified. And it will continue to be updated. I got ahead of myself. And this should be available in this coming year. This is going to be one of our areas of focus. So where we're going as an organization, we've been delivering a lot of content to date on hard drives. And that's great, but sometimes people receive hard drives that they don't even know what to do with yet. So we think it's a better experience to just have all that content available on demand that the archive can download whenever they see necessary. We've been doing things from a centralized perspective. We're trying to distribute access to the homelands and to the archives themselves. So for our global operations, we've been delivering images only, but now we're going to be talking about adding not just images, but indexes and full text transcriptions of records that we've digitized. And a lot of times the archival content has been captured, but we don't allow the archives to really come in and manage that content if it's been updated. So if you have a unique archival signature or archival reference number, archival ID, we want you to be able to have access to monitor and manage that data in the future, even on FamilySearch. And like I said, today the digital reading room is a kind of a standalone solution. In the future, that'll be integrated as part of the record exchange. So that's it for me. If you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer your questions, or we can answer a few questions now if you'd like. And if not, Katie?
Okay, sounds good.
There is a question. This is from Beth. What is the benefit of the reading room versus online access?
So the reading room is a great solution. If you have staff that is always browsing or interested in specific collections, it's a way to allow them to just browse and look at your holdings by themselves without having to come in and search through a lot of content on FamilySearch. You can get to the same content on FamilySearch, but the digital reading room is restricted to just whatever content you'd like. It's offline, so if you have computers that aren't connected to the internet, that's something that you'd want to consider. So you don't have to worry about uploading and maintaining the content over time. It would be downloaded and delivered to you. So it's just a different use case, and patrons can use the experience as well, but it's just a different interface.
Good. John Dugan's got a question. Can local offices have a subordinate reading room?
So yeah, so John, I guess what you're saying is if there are county archives or some that would have access to a portion of the content, is that kind of what you're suggesting there? We can install subsets. We'd have to talk about rights and
Yes.
things like that, but we could definitely set up a subset of data with a digital reading room very easily.
And just with respect to setup, so it requires the archivist to have a computer,
Yeah,
and then FamilySearch will provide the software. Is that
that's correct. And it runs today just on Windows operating system. So you'd have to have a Windows operating system to run the digital reading room.
looks like you've answered the questions, and there's no other ones at this point. If you think of one, please put them in the chat. Katie, go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. I am happy to see that people are using the chats. Keep those fingers ready because you're going to be using them for a few of these slides. So I asked AI, what does a state archivist do? And it gave me some good answers. But I want to know from you if you think it really did do a good job of describing your work. Okay, key roles, state archivists: preserve and manage government and historical records, ensure legal compliance for records retention, provide public access to archives for research, genealogy, and education, and promote digital preservation transparency. What did AI miss? Throw it in the chat. We want to know. And you can be doing this as I continue to go on. The next slide and the next thing I asked AI is, for these state archivists, who are their user base or their clientele that they're working with? AI is telling me that it's government agencies, researchers, genealogists, historians, students, legal professionals, general public that are seeking vital records or historical documents. Did it miss anything? If it did, we want to know. Throw it in the chat. Okay, and then funding sources.
In the chat. So it says it always misses other duties as assigned.
Yeah, like budgeting and all of the management of the people that you are overseeing, and then the creating of your collection development policies, and then organizing your digitization labs and learning everything about every machine you need. Yes. Okay.
And a couple more. Really random requests.
I want to hear about those.
That's from John Dugan. So you know John well. And the user base authors.
Okay. Okay. Authors. That's a good one. Okay. The funding. Where is your funding coming from? And I know that some of you are kind of unique, where you're not even connected with government entity at all. It's more a historical society that you're connected with. And so you have some things, different hoops you get to jump through, or some different areas where you can be more lenient with the way you work with records, goods and bads. And then with funding, so state appropriations, federal grants, private foundation grants, donations, and partnerships. Is there any other way, if it's appropriate, for you to share how you get your money? Fundraisers, is that like a thing? I don't know. Whatever else where you get money. I used to work at libraries, and so that sometimes that's what you do, right? It when appropriate. Okay, so I wanted to let you know that part of what's unique about FamilySearch is because we are a company who we're not here trying to be like where we're selling you something. We really are here because we care about the record component and people using the records. And so we want to provide access, know where the records are, and then provide access to those records. And we specifically care about genealogists. So we want to be your NAM. And what a NAM is this. It's a noise abatement manager. So FamilySearch wants to get those genealogists over to us or wherever you want them to be, so you can focus on all those other clients that you're trying to work with. In order for us to do that and make sure that the genealogists that we care a lot about, helping them find families, we need to understand kind of where you're at with things and how we can kind of work with you. And the things we know on our side, I'm going to share a few of those, and Jim has already shared that, and Bruce has shared some of the ways we like to work with archivists. But you're going to know even more, and you're going to be able to describe more to us of what the real world out there is like. So one of the things that we help with is digital capture. I think that's the most common one that anybody knows about with FamilySearch. We throw cameras in places. We have camera operators that are there. They're digitizing records. The thing that's a little newer these days is that we are working not just with volunteers, how we had traditionally been doing, but we're also working with vendors. So currently, there is a project in one of the state archives that will remain nameless, but you know who you are, that we have a vendor that's microfilming, or that is digitizing your microfilm. And we love that we are getting to help you convert your microfilm into a more modern format, digitized records that then we will be able to provide better access to, in with you doing that and us as well. So that's one example there. Enhanced treatments. You can do redaction, we can do watermarking, creation of indexes. The most popular, and the thing that we are trying to make sure that anything that we are digitizing, that it gets full text treatment added to it, so full text transcriptions. All of this can be applied to make these records more publicly accessible. So we just need to know what is useful to you. Publication and access. Record custodians, they achieve increased reach and visibility through content publication, including FamilySearch using usage stats, this is some statistics, and then archives can make granular updates to available metadata. Now, a lot of those things, that's where Jim jumps in and he can help out with some of these. But we are able to very easily make the visibility to content publication. That's what you're seeing happen every single time records get sent to us, they're automatically put up online, and that's where you're going to view the records is on our site itself. And then the thing that we love that we can offer is that it is your records for free, and that it is an international audience. That's very wide reaching. Persistent archival access. The archives and records custodians, they enjoy ongoing access to their content through an archival portal. Jim just shared that with you, where images and content can be downloaded at any time. Here's an example. We have a state archive currently who in the 60s and the 70s, FamilySearch went in and they did the microfilming of a bunch of records in their state archive. Well, happy day, those microfilms have been used a lot. And between the usage of the microfilm and then just gradual wear on them, the microfilm is just deteriorating. So what we are able to do, all of the microfilm, as you are aware, the ones owned by FamilySearch have all been digitized. So this state archive is getting us a listing of, here's all of the microfilm that we really could use digital copies of, and we'll be able to put it onto this archival portal, the records exchange portal, and then this archive will be able to then download, or if they prefer, we can send a shuttle to them, And then they will have access to digital images of all their previously microfilmed content. And then record preservation. FamilySearch maintains secure, redundant preservation copies of archival images and data content. There's active preservation going on. People are paying attention, watching entire, I'm not even gonna say team, it's like teams that are overseeing this, where they are making sure that there's format migration going on of all of the digital images. And not to mention with all of that, just the data storage and the maintaining and the cost associated and all of that. We do it because we love the genealogists and we want people to find their families, and it's a service too that helps you all out as well. Your records are preserved. So this last part, this is where it's going to be a little challenging because I know it's very different for every single one of you. So if you feel it's appropriate to put it in the chat, some of your responses to these questions you're seeing, do it. If not, I also am going to have my email address at the end, and you all should, and if you don't, email me, but know who your regional managers are. And this is the kind of thing we want to know. And if you're not the right person to talk to because you're busy doing all of those other things going on that you hinted at with your list of job duties, if there is someone that we should talk to that's a head of a digitization department, happy to talk with them. If you have someone that's over like strategic plans for future, we're happy to talk with them. Whoever the right person is to make the connections we want to talk to. But we would like to know, what are your biggest challenges in digitization and access? We would like to know, what are your priorities for genealogical records? What are the highest priorities? What are things that, and I don't have this listed, but what are things and projects that you already feel, hey, we can take care of that in-house. We are good to go on that. Here's where we're putting it. But hey, FamilySearch, you might want to know that we're working on this and we are putting it on our site and how we're putting it on our site. We want to know that so we can let the genealogists know that that's where you're putting things and what you're working on. How do you currently engage with genealogists and researchers? I was just being taught that in some states, there's 2 different routes that citizens can take when they are reaching out to an archivist. There's one, if they're wanting a certified copy of a document, that's one route. And there be a fee potentially with that one. But then there's another that if it's for genealogists or it is an uncertified copy and they go a different route. Things like that's really helpful for us to understand as regional managers, and then also look at how can we use technology to help the genealogists and be helping you at the same time. And then what else do you want us to know? Please share any of that again in the chat, or feel free to come off of mute, although I know you all are doing a lot of other things right now, but feel free to email as well. Any questions or comments that would like to be made? Okay, I'll put my email in the chat. I'm serious, share.
John Dugan asked if you could back up a slide.
Yes. Is it to the question slide?
I think so.
I can put those in the chat too. I could put all the questions in with the email.
What was the one just before this?
The one before that was the record
Okay.
preservation. And then after that was just my email. So I'll put the questions.
He said thanks.
You're welcome.
So
Anytime.
So I can ask a question while our attendees are maybe thinking or typing their other questions. Um, One of the things that our community has started asking us about as vendors dabble in AI is some level of response from all of you about any considerations you might be having about different impacts that AI has on so many different factors, from environmental impacts to um, electricity and all of those other things that are happening. And, just wondering how you all might be addressing some of those more philosophical and other concerns that come with that AI conversation.
I could start on that a little bit. So we know that AI has a lot of benefits, um, but it also requires a lot of computing capacity and not just a footprint in terms of the the power grid, but also a physical footprint. When you talk about data centers being built and things like that. Um, One of the things that can help to some degree is not always using a large language model. Now, there's still a lot of computing to use a small language model, but we are not interested in everything an LLM knows. We're not interested in everything that Google knows or ChatGPT or the different engines. We're focused more on genealogical data. So tree structures, relationships, being able to understand relationships between people in a record. Those are some of the problems that we're solving. Similarly, we're looking at our contracting process today. And AI can do a lot in terms of interpreting contracts and identifying where clauses are similar. Again, you don't need an LLM to do that. You need one that's trained on legal documentation and legal considerations. So I think by right sizing AI to support what you're trying to accomplish, I think that really does help with the footprint. Um, but again, yeah, there are some ethical considerations that I'm not really qualified to speak to. But for our industries and what it does to help humanity, I'll just talk about handwriting recognition and the full text transcription that we're doing. We're going to publish another billion images this year with full text transcription. And those records, so let me back up to last year, what we did. Most of the records that we did were legal documents that we would never index because the cost would be too high to identify the names because the name density just isn't high enough for us. But those documents are really important to specific populations in the United States, such as those who are researching that descended from former slaves, as an example, or those who have Native American ancestry, where these are some of the richest documents that they have available. So there is a cost, but the benefit to society and being able to understand where they came from and to be able to access information that other populations may just take for granted. AI has really an equalizing democratization value as it's applied in the areas of library science and archival science. So we don't see a lot of downside from the benefits, but the economies of scale and just throwing a bunch of servers to solve this. Yeah, there probably are some things that the ethicists and others need to help educate us on.
Okay, a couple of other questions. One is, has anyone compared the energy consumption of indexed records versus multiple manual searches? I don't know that we've done that kind of an analysis.
Good question. Mhm.
That, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's actually really interesting. If you go back with technology to microfilm readers, those used a lot more power than a computer.
Yeah.
You had the lighting, you had the mechanical. I mean, most of them, we were scrolling ourselves. But in terms of power usage, now that's not the whole system. But if you're looking at it from a single station, um, yeah, that's an interesting question, though.
Here's another one. Has FamilySearch ever tried to connect DNA evidence to their collections?
That is an ongoing discussion that we've had many times. And to date, the decision is that we are staying out of the DNA space. Now, in the future, if you talk about, kind of bring your own models, that might be something, but we're not actively either preserving or in the DNA space. We provide a lot of information, but that's something that we've kind of avoided to date.
I would add to that, Jim, that this is Bruce, that we do have a number of collaborators and organizations that we work with who do that. And so our users have access to much of that. And we have one actually that will be starting here in January that has millions of records of DNA records tied to their trees. So yeah, that's an example of something also we're maybe not as good at that right now, but there are others who are.
All right, I don't see any other questions. We appreciate your time. Oh, we got one more. Records like minutes that only have nuggets of genealogical information are our biggest challenge. Jim's point about dense records being searchable through AI helps solve this. This is a really, really good point. Yeah. I can tell you, I have a researcher that sits a couple of cubicles away from me. And ever since the ability to do full text search, he's over the moon about this. He says, it used to be that I had to get a marriage record to really get to find individuals and everything. And I would never go through the hundreds of pages of legal documents to try to find somebody. But now the computer does it. So it's just as easy to find somebody in a very dense record collection. I call it, like in mining, there's overburden. We have a big copper mine out here on the west side of Salt Lake called the Kennecott Copper Mine. And the percentage of copper in there is less than 1%. So they have lots of overburden, lots of dirt they got to get rid of before they get to the copper. That's what legal court records tend to look like. It's a lot of words there before you really get to the people names. And this capability enables you to strip out all of those words and get right to the people names and understand their relationships and things like that. So,
and that's also example in that comparison where if you said everybody that was looking for records, information, names in a set of records that were legal documents or probates or those kind of things, we have to do a full search versus saying they've already been fully searched with this full text search. You're just reaching out to get that. So it's already been, so it's not being reprocessed. It's processed once. So there's some economies. I wish I could say there were so many people out spending days and weeks just reading images, but many of them, as you know, get discouraged and just don't do it. Whereas the full text is opening the door for them to find something easily. But there's definitely some significant economies in there and some opportunities. So it's been exciting to see the response from our end.
yeah,
like
just
John's comment.
yeah. Once indexed, you only mine the pure ore. That's it. Once transcribed, you only mine the pure ore.
Good analogy.
And oh, by the way, we've done this in Spanish and in Portuguese and in French and we're working on several other languages, and English. So if you get a chance, you want to play around with the FamilySearch website, you can go to the FamilySearch Labs portion.
It's out of labs.
Oh, it's
You
out
just
of
go under
labs.
search now.
Okay.
Search and then full text.
Very good. So it's a drop down under search, and you can go to full text search and have some fun. Well, we appreciate. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, if anybody else continues to have questions, feel free to keep entering them into the chat. I was just going to say thank you to all of you for a great presentation. It's always good to hear what FamilySearch is up to and what potentially is on the horizon. And we just have a couple of follow-up announcement slides. So if there's anything else you all want to say, please go ahead.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of our group here. We're delighted to work with COSA. We always are. We go to the COSA conferences, as you know, and it's much funner to meet people in person, but it's wonderful to have this technology that we can meet you virtually and be able to share some of the wonderful things that are going on at FamilySearch. And we look forward to your feedback, your input, your thoughts, your questions, your recommendations as we continue to move forward, because we do listen to our customers and want to see how we can help you best achieve the goals that you have. And of course, we're focusing on the genealogical content, but there may be some things that we do within that genealogical sphere that can also help you in other areas as well. So thank you so much.
We have a few more webinars coming up yet this year, 2 this year and 1 to start off next year. We have the Shop Talk with Preservica on December 2nd and a Shop Talk with Apex on December 18th. Both of those are at 2 p.m. Eastern instead of 3 p.m. So just make note of that. And our first webinar of the year every year is our What's on Tap webinar. So look for that. Also, to get registered for, that will be January 22nd. All of those are on our events calendar on our website and should all be open for registration. And a couple more discussions yet this year. In December, we have archivists who code with their monthly discussion on December 2nd. And our final Chatting with Colleagues is also in December. That's December 10th. That will be a follow-up storytelling discussion with Miranda Milligan from Ancestry, who led our storytelling affinity group sessions at the annual meeting. So look for more information coming out about that. Those are both also available to register for on our event calendar as well. And just a heads up, the COSA office is closed next week on the 27th and 28th for Thanksgiving. Hope everybody enjoys a little time away from work. And as always, you can find our website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel, which is where the recording of this will be as well. So thank you everybody for coming, and thank you to FamilySearch for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.